This conference will now be recorded.
Vande Guru Parambaram. Ragadirogan Sadatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutan Asheshan Aulsukyamoha Aradidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So, very good evening to all of you. We will continue our session with the Matrashitaya. So, in our last session, we discussed about the three types of treatment modalities: Hedu Viparidam, Vyadhi Viparidam, and Tadarthakari. And we saw the details of each one of the three. And then we saw that, okay, after the Deepanam and Pajanam, reverse, Pajanam and Deepanam is done or achieved, then there is a requirement, there is a need to relieve the dhadukshobham, the damage or the sort of shock that could have happened in the level of the dhadus, srodhas, etc. And apart from bringing the dosha pajanam and agni deepanam, we have to focus on such issues as well. Otherwise, nivrittobi punarvyadhi alpenayadi heduna dehe margi kride doshaihi. All these things we discussed. So we saw that, okay, then hidam abhyanjana sneha pana vastyadi yuktitaha. Now, in the next lines, we see ajirnam cha kabhadamam tatra shobhokshi gandayoho sadyo bhukta ivodgaraha praseg utklesha gauravam. So now onwards, we start discussing about a lighter version or milder version of Agni Dushti-janya vikaras called Ajirna. Earlier we discussed another set, Vishujiga, Alasagam, Dandaga Alasagam, and Visham, Ama Visham. Those four, they are all very fast to manifest, and even though they are told to be the outcome of Adhimatrashanam, when we go to the details, we understand that the story does not look so simple and straightforward. The entire story does not look that simple and straightforward. For many reasons, obviously. For example, there is one word used with the peculiar emphasis, that is ashu. Adimatram punas sarvan ashu doshan prakopayed. Ashu. So, the quick manifestation of symptoms and signs, then whatever is presented, they are very serious, grave presentations many a times, and the chances of fatality, death, asadhyavastha, all these things are very high. Then another interesting feature is the presence of Visha in almost all situations. Presence of Visha in almost all situations. Then The presence of Visha is sometimes Pratyaksha, sometimes Paroksha. Just 1 minute. Somebody is asking for the new passcode. Just 1 minute. Okay. So sometimes the presence of Visha is very obvious, Pratyaksha, as in the case of the Ama Visham, the fourth one, which we see in that list. Whereas in some cases, the presence of Visha is not that obvious. We can call it as something Paroksha. It is there. How do we know? In the first three, Alas Vishujiga, Alasagam and Dandagalasagam, we find many usages of Agadams and similar Vishahara Prayogas in this context in books like Ashtanga Sangraha. So that gives a clue that, okay, there is presence of Visham. So considering all these points, it is quite valid to suspect that there is an element of Visha in all these four situations. But coming to Ajirnam, what we are going to discuss now is a milder issue, is a simpler issue, which is an outcome of the inability of the Agni to do Pajana properly. Naturally, Agni Mandyam as such by default sometimes, or sometimes because of the dosha afflictions. Then some Ashana doshas, as we saw in the beginning of the chapter, there are many elements, and also in the Grahani Chikilsidam of Charagam, we have seen it many a times. We have seen it multiple times. We have read it aloud many a times. Dushyatyagni, Abhojanad, Ajirnadi Bhojanad, Vishamashanad, like that. So such factors, Akala Bhojanam, Adimatra Bhojanam, Adhyashanam, etc. So all these things, all these practices can be the cause of the Ajirna. And the presentations here in Ajirna need not be as quick as the previously explained Vishujigadi conditions. Need not be that quick. And need not be as fatal as they are. That is also important. The Vishujigadi Vikaras generally tend to go out of track immediately, all of a sudden, making a drastic and fatal twist in the entire course of the disease progression. So that all these things are to be kept in mind. Similarly, the presentation in the Ajirna, of course, it is true that they are not as quick as Alasakam, Vishujika, Dandaga Alasakam or Visham, but at the same time, they are not too delayed to manifest as well. That is also to be kept in mind. They are neither very quick nor very delayed. So with this, these ideas in our mind, we will come to the shloka part. Ajirnamja kabhadamam tatra shobhokshi gandayoho sadyo bhukta ivodgaraha prasegotklesha gauravam. So here we find Kabhad ajirnam amam. Kabhad. So something which originates from kabham. So that ajirnam is known as amam. Tatra. In that ajirna caused by kabham, which is known by the name amam, shobhaha akshigandayoho. Akshigandayoho shobhaha sadyo bhukta iva udgaraha. Sadyo bhukta iva udgaraha. Prasega utklesha gaurava. So ajirnam. Na jirnam or kinjit jirnam is known as ajirnam. Na jirnam or kinjit jirnam. So sometimes it can be partially jirnam, sometimes not at all jirnam. So here not at all jirnam is more applicable or acceptable considering the situation. So when this na jirnam annam is attached to kabha, one possibility, or kabhad, something which is deriving from, when a kabha pradhana dosha dushti namashaya agni or grahani causes ajirnam, we expect kabhajirnam amam, its name is amam, to manifest. Technically it is known as amajirnam. Here the name of the ajirnam is amam, and that word amam can have different shades of meaning here. For example, it refers to the fact that it is untouched and unprocessed by the Agni. Straightforward, simple meaning. It is unprocessed by the Agni. Number two, amam reflects the idea that it is stagnating mechanically in the amasya. So it goes through a stagnation and it denies to move. And number three, the word amam also shows the resemblance of the stuff in form to any unprocessed substance in any other place. It has got structural similarity with anything else which is designated by the name amam. So because of these three, maybe more possibilities which reflects the status of this particular ajirnam, the word amam is used to represent that particular stuff. And that kabhaja ama ajirnam presents itself with certain symptoms or signs or whatever it is. They include akshigandayoho shobhaha, akshigandayoho, akshikudayoho gandayoho cha shobhaha. Akshikuda, the orbital and the periorbital area, the pit. So there is puffiness or swollen appearance of the eyes. In other words, what you expect on your examination is the orbital puffiness. Similarly, there can be puffiness in the cheeks, puffy cheeks as well. Then Sadyo Bhukta Iva Udgaraha. Sadyo Bhukta Iva Udgaraha. Udgaraha. Udgaraha means eructation or belching. And that belching or eructation is of what nature? Sadyo Bhukta Iva. Sadyo Bhukta Iva. Sadyo Bhukta means the commentaries explains Sadyo Bhukta as if the individual has taken his food or her food just now. Actually, the eructation comes maybe hours after eating. But still that eructation, the stuff which comes up, Udgaraha, seems like he or she has taken his food just now. Aprapta vidahavastha. Aprapta vidahavastha. So stuff is stagnated, it is not moving to the next stage of vidaha. It's not moving forward. So that is Sadyo Bhukta Iva Udgaraha. Then Prasekaha. Prasekaha. Prasekam, that pra upasargam shows prasaktam. Prasaktam means continuous. Prasaktam, continuous. So there is prasaktam nishtivanam, excessive and continuous salivation in the mouth, and the individual tends to spit. Nishtivanam, tends to spit frequently. Then utklesham. Utklesham is a word which is used very extensively in many situations, and the important aspect or important point to note is we should take the meaning of the word ulklesham, not ulklesham of any meaning or any word, contextually. All the words gain their meaning as per the context. There is no absolute meaning many a times. So here utklesham means the tendency to throw up or vomit, nausea. Then gauravam, prasega utklesha gauravam. Gauravam means heaviness of the body in general. Practically, this will be manifested as maybe in many forms. Example, generalized sluggishness or inertia. And in particular, there can be the feeling of heaviness of udara. Gauravam, udara gauravam. So with these features, I think we can visualize an individual coming to you with the Shobhaha Akshikudayoho, Akshigandayoho, Sadyo Bhukta Ivodgaraha, Prasega Utklesha Gauravam. So that should be identified as a Ana Ajirnam, Kabhajam. So we find the Kabhaja Ajirnam explained as the first one. Generally, moving further forward to the Nidana Sthanam, we will find that generally a condition is explained as Vada first, then Pitta, and then Kapha. But here, as the situation is something which affects the Agni, and guna-wise, Kabha is the dosha which is having Vishesha gunas, when compared with the Agni, specifically, it is given as the first option or the first choice or the first possibility or the easiest possibility of developing Ajirna. Then Vayu is considered as the next portion, next possibility. Of course, these priorities or orders need not be kept relevant irrespective of the desha and kala. Need not be. You may change it, because when the lifestyle changes, when the activities of daily living changes, these sort of priorities also may change. Now we find the possibility of Vada causing Ajirna in our next line. Vishtabdham anilad. Vishtabdham anilad Shula vibandhatmana sadakrit. That is what the text documents. Vishtabdham anilad Shula vibandhatmana sadakrit. Shula vibandhatmana sadakrit Vishtabdham anilad. Or anilad ajirnam Vishtabdham. Tad Shula vibandhatmana sadakrit. So here the Ajirnam is named based on the potential of the Vayu, the Janagadosha, to upset the status of the Koshtam in general. In the case of Amajirnam also, the same protocol was followed. It showed the potential of the Kabham, or the way in which Kabham upsets the Koshtam. That was the basis of naming that particular Ajirna. These days we hear the naming of different activities sometimes, or cyclone sometimes, many things. So generally the names are supposed to reflect the nature. Names are supposed to reflect the nature. So Amam reflected its nature. Now the Vishtabdham also should reflect its nature. Vishtabdham. The word Vishtabdham means stabdham. Visheshena stabdham. So it is something like fixed firmly, or obstructed, or made motionless, something like that. So in Amam also we shows that possibility. That means it is getting motionless, stuck, all these things. But there is a very tangible difference. There it is Kabhajam, and Gurutvam is the basic criteria. So that is Stabdham because of its heaviness. It is something like a mass getting precipitated, obstructing the entire process mechanically. But here it is not so. Here it is Vayu causing the obstruction. vayu causing the fixation. So it is not a Gaurava predominant condition. It is not a Gaurava predominant condition, but it is driven basically by Laghavam. But at the same time, Kabha tends to be Sthira by default, but Vayu tends to be Chala. So when that Vayu is becoming obstructed by the influence of the associating elements, here it is the Ajirna Annam, obviously it causes or creates lot of pain. So that we can see, that pain, then the restlessness, obstructed feeling, as if something is jammed. All these feelings we can expect, and the patient will be explaining them also. Here we find Shulam, Vibandham, Adhmanam, Sadam. Shula, Vibandha, Adhmana, Sadakrit. Shulam, Koshta Shulam, Udara Shulam. So type of Vishtabdhavada Janya Shulam. So it will be more like a colic type of pain. And the entire stuff will be Vibandham, stuck. Adhmadam, bloated. And the person will be feeling sadam, tired, exhausted, better, exhausted, drained. So the patient is coming with a bloated stomach, abdomen, having colicky pain, and feels like everything is stuck in and drained, highly exhausted. Then you can feel the Vishtabdha Ajirna. Earlier it was Gauravam in Kabhajirna, Amajirna. So this is about Vishtabdha Ajirna. Then we find the third one, that means Paitiga Ajirnam, Pittad Vidagdham, Trinmoha Brahma Amlodgara Dahavad. Pittad Vidagdham, Trinmoha Brahma Amlodgara Dahavad. Vidagdham, that is the word used. So as in the case of Amajirnam and Vishtabdhajirnam, here also the name should show the Janagadosha and the Swabhava. So here it is Vidagdham. Vidagdham means some sort of a partially processed and somewhat fermented. It is not completely digested. It is Ajirnam. The process is not completed, but it has started through the process, but stuck in between. Vidagdham. That is caused by Pittam. Pittad Vidagdham. Then the patient, the individual, the person will be presenting with the Trit. It is quite interesting. We should look into the features. Trit, Moham, Brahmam, Amlodgaram, and Daham. We should look into these presentations very carefully. There will be Trit, thirst, excessive thirst, Trishna, which is not getting relieved many a times with the intake of water. Trit. So here there is a mass of annam which is getting fermented inside. Vidagdham. This vidagdhavastha happens as a part of routine pajanam. But that stage should proceed further into the next level. We have discussed those portions in detail. And we have seen that initially there is bheni bhudam kavam madhuryam, all these things, and then vittad, that vidagdhavastha, which is an amla predominant stage. All these things we have seen, taking the explanations documented in the Sharirasthana. But here it is getting stuck there, no further processing. So it is something like a volcano inside, which is not getting erupted, but getting continuously into the state of vidagdha inside. So the individual suffers from a set of lakshanas accordingly. And the first one explained is trid. Then that causes moham, some sort of a orientation issue, consciousness issue, then some restlessness, bhramam. There is a phase of giddiness because of this vidagdha pittam working inside. Then amlodgaram, sour eructations, and daham. That daham may be sometimes confined to the costum, but need not be always limited to costum. It can even come out. So it can be koshtadaham. Sometimes because of the amlodgaram and everything, it can be hriddaham, kandhadaham as well. Pittad vidagdham trinmoha bhrama amlodgara dahavat. So these are the three possibilities of ajirnam. I hope you understood how it is different from the other amajanya vikaras what we saw earlier. And Sangraham, Ashtanga Sangraham tries to explain this in a maybe a little bit elaborate way. Of course, the core stuff is same. Sangraham comments or documents Ajirnam cha kabhadamam vishtabdham anilad bhaved vidagdham pittakopena triprakaram iti smritam. So giving the names first and the Janaka doshas. Then tatrame guruda utkledaha, guruda utkledaha shobho ganda akshikudayoho udgarascha yadha bhuktam, that is sadhyo bhukta ivodgara avidagdha pravartade. So that gives a clarification about what is the mechanism or how does it present. Avidagdha pravartade. Avidagdha, that udgaram will have no features of any sort of vidaham happening inside. So that sadyo bhuktavastha is self-explanatory, but the author would like to or wants to give some specific stuff or some stress on the point that it is avidaktham. It has not gone further to the level of vidaha. So that is udgarascha yatha bhuktam avidagdha pravartade. Then regarding vishtabdhajirnam, vishtabdhe shulam adhmanam vividhaha vada vedana. So that is a special note in Ashtanga Sangraha. Shulam we find in Ashtanga Hridayam as well, but here it is also noted down that there is a possibility of Vividha Vada Vedana, different types of Vadiga Vedana. We should have an understanding of this Vadiga Vedana, Kabhaja Vedana, Paitiga Vedana, all these things. Vedana is pain as well as any presentation which causes some sort of a distress or difficulty, or need not be pain as such all the time. And of course, you all know that pain is a very non-specific and highly subjective experience. What some person experiences as pain need not be expressed as pain by a second person if he undergoes through the same experience. So it is so subjective. So, but here it is interestingly mentioned as Vividha Vada Vedana, Malavada Pravrittischa, Malavada Pravrittischa. So, Malavada Pravritti, Vada Pravritti, that Vada is given a Visheshana, that Malavada Pravritti. It may be explained as Mala Pravritti and Vada Pravritti, but it does not look like that. It is Malavada Pravritti, Malarupa Vada Pravritti, Dushta Vada Pravritti, Stambho. We have seen it in Hridayam also. Mohaha, in Moham is included here in Vada as well. Angapedanam, Mohaha, Angapedanam. So there is a generalized mentioning about body pains. There is a specific mentioning about Koshtashulam, colics, and a overgeneralized term like Vividha Vada Vedana. So these aspects we have to keep in mind while one individual is explaining his or her presentations. And regarding the Vidagdha Jirna, Sangraha explains, Vidagdhe Brahma Trinmurcha. So what was explained in Hridayam as Moham is more specifically given here as Murcha, a loss of consciousness. Vidagdhe Brahma Trinmurcha Pittacha Vividha Ruja. Pittada Ruja. Different types of presentations of Pitta. Udgarascha sadhuma amlaha. So a word dhumam is included in the Udgara. Earlier in Ashtanga Hridaya we saw amla Udgaram. Here Udgarascha sadhuma amlaha. So sadhuma amlaha. It is not simple amla, but sadhuma. It is a burning type of, or a smoking type of, or a that kattu amla Udgiranam. It is more like a kattu amla Udgiranam. And Svedo dahascha jayade. So Svedam is also noted here. Svedam, sweats, and daham, burning sensations in different places. So Sangraha tries to give some more features. These are to be kept in mind These are not rare presentations. Fine. Now coming to the management part of these ajirna vikaras, Langhanam karyam ametu, Vishtabdhe Swedanam Bhrisham, Vidagdhe Vamanam. So three options given. Langhanam karyam ametu. Ametu Langhanam karyam. Karyam karaniyam. To be done. What is to be done in Amam? It is Langhanam. Langhanam upavasam. Upavasarupa Langhanam. Nothing else. So leave it without giving any food, without giving any medicine. Upavasam. Maybe some Ushna Udaga, that as we find in our Jwara Chikilsa, Trishnagalpalpam Ushnambu Pibed. So that may be adopted. Nothing else. Vishtabdhe Swedanam Bhrisham. Not ordinary Svedam. Bhrisham Swedanam. Bhrisham Swedanam. Bhrisham means Atyartham. So the Swedanam should be Atyartha Swedanam. So here in Vishtabdha Ajirnam, our focus is on the Vayu Vriddha in the Amashaya, causing different types of obstructed, stuck feelings, and also causing many types of pain sensations in different areas. So that Vayu is to be released, that is to be repositioned from that area. So Svedam is supposed or taken as the best option there. So Bhrisham Svedanam is advised. Vidagdhe Vamanam. Vidagdhe Vamanam. So Vamanam is advised here in a Pitta predominant condition. So generally we were thinking that Vamanam is a treatment for Kabham, Shodhana Chikilsa for Kabham. But here in this particular area we find that such a prejudiced notion is not always correct. Because here we find that in a Pitta predominant Ajirnavastha, Vamanam is advised. So the Shodhanam is based on the area where the Dosha Dushti is accumulated. Here in Ajirnavastha, all the mechanism is operating in the Amashayam, not even reaching properly to the Paschimānashaya. That is why it is Ajirnam. So the entire operation is basically spinning around the Amashayam. And that Vidagdhavastha, so we do not find that Vamanam in Kabhaja Ajirnam. Because Agni is so weak there, you are not supposed to make any sort of intervention there. Just leave it as such. That Gurutvam, everything should subside. But meantime, if you have a very strong feeling that no, I should go for a Vamanam in this Amajirnam, you can do it. That is specially mentioned in the last part of the sloga, Yadva yadha avastham hidam bhavet. So this is the general guideline. Meantime, if you feel like doing something else which is logically correct, you can go for it. But in general, in Kabhajirnam, Amajirnam, Langhanam alone is sufficient. In in Vada Ajirnam, Bhrishasvedam is sufficient. In Pitta Vidagdha Ajirnam, the best option is to go for Vamanam and throw out that accumulated Dravarupa Vidagdha Pittam along with that afflicted mass of Aharam. So the easiest method could be Vamanam. If you delay, the patient may further progress through stages of that Murcha, Brahmam, etc., which may make the situation little bit complicated. So the first and the best option could be to go for Vamanam in Vidagdha Ajirna. And that next part, that means Yadva Yadhavastham Hidam Bhaved, gives a free hand to the Vaidya to come to precise conclusion based on the situation, the gravity of the situation. Avasthan Vidhanam. Yadva Yadhavastham Hidam Bhaved. So here we find very descriptive, even though only in 3 or 4 slokas or 2 or 3 slokas, a descriptive idea about how to handle this ajirnavastha, and also gives us an insight about what is the strategy adopted in the management of such ajirnajanya koshtashrita vikaras, which are having some sort of a maybe some sort of a subacute presentation, So with that, I think we will conclude today's session because it is 8:55. We may not get time for the next sloka to explain the meaning and the idea. So I think we will stop here. If there are a couple of questions or points of discussion, you also can share. Don't take me as the authority who is supposed to answer all these questions and come to conclusions for everything. You also can suggest your experiences, your ideas, your thoughts, etc.
If anybody wants to add to this, you are always welcome. Sir, one question from Vaidya Komal. I will read it out.
Okay, fine.
If a patient has Vidagdha Jirna for many days and Grahani Dushti has occurred, then is Virechan advisable?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. But that, I think that is a different clinical scenario. The ajirnam, which is lasting for a longer days, for longer periods, and causing persisting symptoms, I think will be regarded as or treated as not as this just ajirna vikara, but elements of grahani chikitsa also will be incorporated. But interestingly, that has got close connection with these concepts which we were discussing here. That is the interesting aspect of it. because when we go through the grahani chikilsitam, we will find that, see, grahani masridam dosham ajirnavadupajare. So that is the connection between grahani chikilsitam and this ajirna chikilsa. But one important difference is, in ajirna, it is some, as I mentioned, it is an subacute or even acute presentation, and the management program is by and large of immediate priority interventions. Whereas grahani, as you mentioned, is the outcome of long-standing ajirna vikaras and grahani dushti and grahani dosha. So these concepts are relevant there, but there we will be considering the avayava dushti as well, avayava dushti of the grahani. So when, as in your question, if it is a long-standing situation, obviously the avayava dushti, the grahani dushti, as you mentioned, that also will be considered, and the special interventions to strengthen the grahani should also be done. Whether virejana is advisable or not in Vidagdha Jirna is a question, as I meant, as we saw in the sloga, yadva yadhavastham hidam bhaved is the rule. If we feel that, okay, it has touched the grahani and gone beyond, then obviously it is beyond the reach or the range of vamana, then you will have to think about virejana. And another point in which is given in our Ayurveda Rasayanam commentary by Hemadri, he quotes that if you can see the textbook, it is important. See, yadaha gharanadi, in the same context, Hemadri quotes another author. Vishtabdhe swedanam vartyo lavanoshnambushasya vidagdhe vamanam shastam upavaso virejanam. So in Vidagdha Ajirna itself, even without the history of this long-standing incidents, Virejanam is advised, because it is all based on the clinical decision of the Vaidya. If you feel that, that is very deliberately, that is why Vakbhada includes that yadva yadhavastham hidam bhaved. We are so convinced that the condition is ajirnam, and symptom wise it is very evident that it is vidagdha ajirnam. But as we saw in Ashtanga Sangraham, pittacha vividha rujaha, there is a possibility of varied presentations reflective of pitta. So we find that, okay, there is gudadaham or daham in the adhonabhisthanam, which shows that this ajirnam has proceeded further downwards. Then obviously you should go for virejanam. There is no doubt at all. Okay.
Thank you, sir. One more question. Sir, why Akshikut Shot mentioned in Amavastha? It's acute stage, not Chirkari disease like kidney disorders.
I saw the question. I will read it once again. Why Akshikuda Shodha mentioned in Amavastha? It's acute at stage, not Chiragari disease like a kidney disease. I don't know. Okay, that's fine. That question is fine. There is nothing wrong in your question. In this, see, this Akshikuda Shobham or Ganda Shobham can be seen in many situations, but they all need not be indicative of an Amajirnam. But at the same time, Amajirnam will have or can have the presentation of Akshikuda Shobham and Ganda Shobham. there will how do we differentiate? That is the question. Differentiation should be done based on the other associated features. Akshikuda Shobham or Ganda Shobham along with maybe Panduda. It can be Pandu or Kamala. Akshikuda Shobham or Ganda Shobham along with the Pada Shobham. It may be something else. Akshikuda Shobham, then Ganda Shobham, along with whatever we have seen in this Amajirnam, including that Prasegam, Ulklesham, Gauravam, then it is becoming Amajirnam. So it is about not about just one feature, but about the complete clinical scenario. All the features that the individual is having should be taken onto our clinical table. They should be spread across properly, and then a logical decision is to be drawn out of it. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Yes, Ashwin sir are again asking about the session. I think, sir, we will discuss it on what we can say formal message, and
Yeah,
let you.
we will arrange a session as early as possible. As of now, I think up to 12th. Yeah, up to 12th, I'm not at all free. That's the problem. After that, we will. As I mentioned, I have another engagement next Wednesday. Sorry, next Thursday. So only after next week I'll be able to. So maybe after that, after 12th, we will arrange a separate session for that. Not exclusively for Samanira but also for some extra questions related to it. Maybe I think I do not know whether I have given a presentation on the Amam, which I did somewhere else, but I think I can do it for you also, which will make the idea clearer.
I think that will be a better idea, sir. If we have a session on Amam.
Yeah, that may be nice, including interactions.
Yes, yes, yes. We will also have some inputs to that session.
Exactly.
I think Ashwin sir
Yeah.
will also contribute. So it will be a nice session, sir.
Fine. We will plan it after 12th.
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely. I think we can conclude for today, sir.
Yeah, definitely.
It's already 9:05.
Yeah.
So we'll
Okay
conclude
then.
for. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prasad sir. Shubhratri.
Okay, bye. Good night to all.